Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you some shortcuts for selecting text on your Mac. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So one of the main things people do on their Macs is to write. Whether you're writing a book in Pages, a quick email, or just filling out a form on a web page, sometimes you need to select text to edit it. There are many different ways to select text. I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways to do it with the trackpad and mouse, but mostly I want to focus on doing it with the keyboard. So I'm going to use Pages here as an example, but you could be writing text in just about any app on your Mac. Now, if you want to select some text, the basic way to do it is to use your mouse or trackpad, click at the beginning of the selection and drag and then release, and then you select some text. But there are a lot of other ways to do it as well. First, let's look at ways to do it with the mouse and trackpad. You can place your cursor anywhere you want by just clicking. But if you want to select some text, you can double click on a word and it will select the entire word. If you triple click, it will select the entire paragraph, everything up until the next new line or line break. And you can click and drag for words and for paragraphs as well. So if I double click on a word and drag, it's going to grab by word. If I triple click and then drag, it will select by paragraph. But let's focus more on using the keyboard. After all, if you're writing, then you probably have both hands on the keyboard, and it's inconvenient to move one of those hands to the mouse or trackpad to do a selection. So first, let's learn how to move the text cursor, because that's the key to selecting things. You can see the blinking cursor here. To move it, of course, I would just use the arrow keys. I can move to the right with the right arrow, to the left with the left arrow. Now, if I want to move by word, I can hold the Option key down. So holding Option, I can move to the right and it will jump by word. If I hold the Command key down, it will jump to the end of a line, or with the left arrow to the beginning of a line. Now, selecting text is just a matter of holding the Shift key with any one of those actions. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down and use the right arrow to move the cursor. And as I do so, because I have the Shift key down, it's actually going to select each character that I move over. Likewise, if I hold the Option key down, I know I'll move by word. And if I hold the Shift key down, that will be a selection. So Shift and Option together and I move to the right, it's going to select by word. This makes it really easy to select large portions of text fairly quickly. For instance, if I'm at the end of something I just typed and I want to erase the last few words, I can do Option Shift and left arrow to select the last few words and then just start typing to replace what's there. Now likewise, you can use Command to move to the end of the line, and if you use Shift and Command, it will select everything to the end of the line. If you do Shift, Command, and the left arrow, it will select everything to the beginning of the line. But you can also use the up and down keys to go up to the previous line and down to the next one. So you can do the same thing with Shift and it will just select everything from where the cursor started to where it ended. So you could, for instance, select from here down by using Shift and down arrow. You can see the cursor is always going to be located kind of in the same horizontal position as it was where you started. But if you hold down the Option key and you use the down arrow, it will move to the end of the paragraph. So if you do Shift Option down arrow, it will select from where you were to the end of the paragraph. Likewise, Shift Option up arrow will select from where you were to the beginning of the paragraph. Now what if you want to select the entire line or paragraph? Well, there's no single keyboard shortcut to do that, but it's easy to use a combination to do so. So we know that Command left will go to the beginning of a line and Command right will go to the end of the line. So just follow up Command left with Shift Command right and you select an entire line. So that's Command left, Shift Command right, and you've selected the entire line you're on. For the entire paragraph, you could do Option up arrow and then Shift Option down arrow. Now what if we want to select everything, all of the text? Well, there's a keyboard shortcut for that that's different than the rest of these. It's simply Command A. If you go to Edit, you'll usually see Select All as Command A. So just Command A selects everything. It doesn't matter where the cursor started because you're selecting everything. Now selecting all always depends on the domain of the text. So here I've created a text box. It's separate from the body text. So if my text cursor is in it and I use Command A, it's going to select all the text in this box. It's not going to include the text that's in another element, in this case the body text out here. Now back to using the mouse or trackpad for a minute. You can also use the Shift key with that, because if you've got the cursor here and you want to select everything to say here, you can hold the Shift key down, click, and it will select everything from where you started to where you ended. Another technique for selecting text is to simply search for the text, because you'll end up with the selection of what you searched for. So I'm going to do a Command F. I'm going to type the word I'm searching for, and you can see it selects the first one. I can simply do Command W to close the Find window there, and you can see the text is selected. Now this may seem like a lot of keystrokes, but it may be less than actually using the arrow key a whole bunch of times to get exactly where you want, especially if you can't see where that text is located. Also, you can use the Edit and then Find Next, Command G, to quickly go to the next one. So a quick Command G selects the next word that matches, and you can continue through. So that's an often overlooked way to select text that's handy in many different cases. Now I know a lot of you are going to ask about non-contiguous text selection on a Mac, and you can only do that in certain apps like TextEdit. There are different engines inside of apps like Pages and Mail and TextEdit, so that some of them support non-contiguous selections and others do not. So here I am in TextEdit, and you can of course copy and paste from Pages into TextEdit if you really wanted to do this. And you can select text just as before, but you can also hold down the Command key when selecting text and select non-contiguous parts. And then when you copy, it would copy all of this together as one piece of text. You can also hold down the Option key and select a rectangular area if you want, and select all the text that's shown here. Probably not something most people need, but if you get some document from somebody and for some reason one of these techniques would be useful, then opening it up or copying and pasting into TextEdit will allow you to select it like this, and then you could paste it back into whatever app you were using. Hope you found all of this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.